Hi, Ed here. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Mask. This is our opportunity to really get to know the leaders of healthcare digital transformation deeper, in terms of who they are, what drives them. And so I really love this particular opportunity to meet all these wonderful leaders. So, Harvey Castro, welcome to Behind the Mask.
Well, thank you for having me. I know we've been on LinkedIn together for a while, and it's finally nice to put you face to face. And I know here in the near future, I actually get to meet you in person. So I'm
Yeah,
excited.
I know it's so funny because we actually live about 10, 15 minutes away from each other. I'm sure we'll get a chance to be together more often. So, before we jump in, we have basically three categories that we talk about, and that is who are you, how did you get here, and where are you going? Before we jump in, tell us a little bit about yourself. Although I think pretty much everyone knows about you, Dr. Castro, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a ER doctor by training. I love gadgets too much. The skinny is I'm constantly like any other guy that's into technology, buying every gadget that comes out, and my wife half the time gets on me about this stuff. But at the end, the core of me, my goal honestly is just to use technology to help my patients. That at the end of the day is really who defines me. And when we talk later, you will see all the things I've done, and it's really just that one statement.
Yeah, love it. Let's jump right in. At what age did you know that you were a leader?
That's a hard one. Honestly, looking hindsight's 2020. Looking back, I think it was more as a teenager. I literally had my first business at age 16, and when you're like, he had a lemonade stand or something. No, I actually had a business that brought in passive income, and I had my own vitamin healthcare business, and that business basically. I was selling vitamins to people. I had a subscription plan. I was making pretty good money, and on top of that, my regular job. And looking back, I'm like, okay, that required a little bit of outside the box thinking.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's why I always ask that question because I think when we really look at it, yeah, you'll find that you were probably the seeds of leadership were there in your youth for sure, and they just got maximized as you got older and became an adult. So that's pretty cool. Speaking of youth, what's one thing that your parents made you do when you were growing up that at the time you kind of rolled your eyeballs a little bit, but now in hindsight, you're glad they forced you to do it?
Looking back, I didn't realize how much my mother would just push me in a good way. She would push me to do things that I didn't want to do. A really cheesy example, and you'll laugh at this one. Every day, every morning when I got my license to my permit to drive, I would drive to my high school, and I would never get on the highway. I would always take the feeder all the way, and I was just scared to get on the highway. And I'll never forget my mom. She literally was letting me drive, and then she saw I was getting close to the on ramp, and she grabbed the steering wheel, then pushed me onto the on ramp, and said, "Okay, now you're gonna go on the highway." And the reason I share that story is that's how she was with me. In a loving way, she'd always push me towards my limit. If she knew I didn't like something, she would push me more towards it so that I'd really push myself. And now I find myself every time there's a challenge, there's something that I don't know or something that I'm weak at. I actually find myself pushing me to see if I can overcome it.
Yeah.
And now it's become a thing where I'm like, it's a challenge now, which is actually a good thing for me now.
Yeah, no, that's a great analogy and great visual, and that's great to have that type of mom growing up. What's the single biggest reason you chose healthcare and to become a physician?
Honestly, I'm gonna share it. It comes to this scar on my left hand. Long story short, I had a horrible experience, and ironically, it was in an emergency room. And basically, I was a teenager. I thought I was Michael Jordan when I was a teenager, and I went up and hit a sign in New York City. And when I came down, there was a piece of metal that slashed my hand open as I was coming down. And I waited over 10 hours to see a doctor. And when he saw me, he didn't give me any anesthetic. He just sewed it raw. And ever since then, I said, you know what? I'm going to be that empathetic doctor. I'm going to be that doctor that gives back to people. And then working in the health food store in a mini way, I was learning from the elders. They would say, hey, use this herb to lose weight or use this herb to sleep. And I just started learning all this information to the point where I was like, oh man, this would be great. What if I just gave back to society? What if I just totally was able to just use this and just give my talents to others? And then at that point, I was like, when I grow up, I'm going to be a doctor.
That's cool. what is one thing most of your coworkers or your peer group don't know about you that you can share?
Ooh, that's a good one. Most people, let's see, trying to think, don't know that I have traveled a lot. And oh, actually, here's a good one. Most people don't know that I lived in Colombia when I was 12 years old for one whole year.
Wow.
My mom, we couldn't afford a babysitter. So every summer she would send me to Colombia. It was cheaper for me to go to Colombia than to live in New York. And then one year, again, I probably wasn't the ideal student. She's like, "Hey, Harvey, you're going down a bad path here. We need to straighten you up." So she sent me to a third world developing country, and it really opened my eyes. It really made me appreciate. I thought I was in poverty growing up in New York, but when I went to a third world country, I realized, no, no, this is really poverty. And so it really gave me perspective. And a lot of people don't know that about me.
Yeah, no, I'm very cool. What about a defining moment? Was there a particular catalyst that happened in your life that reinforced your trajectory or changed your destiny?
If I had to pick a catalyst moment, um, it's kind of like two combined. The first was I was working in an emergency room straight out of residency, and I was not happy. I gave all my life, education, years, energy to become that doctor. And when I was working at that hospital, I felt they were taking the doctor out of me. They were like, "Hey, you need to hurry up. Hey, don't order so many X-rays, CAT scan. You need to be quicker." And I would look at the stats, and I'm like, actually, I'm above average. I'm not even on the low side. And it was just really eye-opening and so upsetting that I decided to create my own emergency room. I literally got investors, and over the next few years, I created about 20 of these and then just trained doctors on how I thought the best way to practice medicine. And I actually flipped it. Instead of me getting on doctors for spending less time, I was actually the opposite. If they were going too fast, I was like, no, 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 I need you to go as long as possible. I need you to spend time. I need you to really get a good history. You have all the time in the world now. And so my focus really flipped.
Wow, I like that a lot. And I imagine the clinical outcomes and quality was probably improved as well.
Yeah.
Tell us about the last time you cried. I mean, a physician, you're exposed, especially in the ED, to a lot of difficult situations, plus everyday life. Tell us about the last time you cried.
I don't know if it'll be the last time, but I think the one that I cannot get over. The one time that I really broke, and to this day, and it's been over a decade, and I still hurt for that one time in the emergency room. This is hard, even talking about it. Basically, I had a patient. He had overdosed, and unfortunately, by the time he came to the emergency room, they brought him dead.
Mm.
And so I had to pronounce him. Then it was about 2 in the morning. We had to call family, and I'll never forget. Big picture was this older gentleman came in. He said, "Oh my God, this is my 20-year-old son. He had overdosed," and he was like, "Where is he?" And it's hard to tell him. It's like, "Hey, let's go sit down. I don't want to show him the body." I was like, "Let's talk about what's going on." And he's like, "I know something bad happened. Just take me straight to him." And I'm like, "Oh my God." So I had to take him, and then seeing that man cry over his son, and then the heartbreaking part was he was like, "Hey, I told him not to hang out with this individual. I told him that I was worried that he would do drugs with this guy, and he did, and he overdosed and died." And then just hugging on him, and then the girlfriend coming in, and then saying that she hadn't told him that she was pregnant with this man that had just deceased child, and then just being part of that, it just broke me. I literally had to go to the back and just cry. It was just so devastating to see that emotion. So I don't know, that's one that I know I'll never get over.
Yeah, that's tough. What was something you've really wanted in life, and it could be again going back to youth, or it could be as an adult, and you didn't get?
Oh, that's a good one too. As a child, we grew up really poor, and so I always wanted stuff. I always wanted like a video game, or I wanted a pet. I always wanted to have more, but I just didn't have the heart to ask my mom because she had, multiple jobs, and I knew we didn't need it, but I wanted it. And so I think as an adult now, I'm probably overdoing it, i.e., why I probably have all these gadgets that I'm buying and doing. It's probably because I'm living that child in me still.
Yeah. Tell me about a time someone tried to hold you back, and how did you respond?
Yeah, I'm gonna repeat that one just because I'll give a little deeper story. So, being held back and told to not practice medicine the way I wanted to, it
Mm,
really upset me. And it got me to the point where I said, let me create my own healthcare system. Let me create my own brand, my own staffing company, my own billing. Let me really pour a certain way that I want patient care to do it. And so I really fought back the system. And it was really exciting to see that other physicians were like, man, I like what you created. I like the system. And the best part is walking into a patient room and saying, man, I drove an hour to get to this location and I bypassed like 8 other ERs because I knew this place would give me the care that I need. And that just gave me chills. And I was like, man, this was great. And so, what in the past looked like, man, this was bad for me or something horrible, I'm going to encourage people out there to flip it on its head and say, you know what, that's bad, but let's take that experience and make it into something positive.
yeah, I like that. Tell me the last time you received a physical thank you card or the last one you wrote.
You know, last week I spoke at the Texas Medical Association's annual conference, and it was so amazing the response that I got. I got so many different emails saying, "Look, I didn't know AI could do this," and the part that was really exciting for me is I had two different physicians reach out and saying, "Hey, you gave this thing about." ChatGPT being able to find diagnosis that other doctors had not. Can you walk me through the process? Because I have some tough cases that I want to use this type of technology. And I was explaining how to do it because of the HIPAA compliance and all the rules, blah, blah, blah. But it just gave me this amazing feeling saying, wow, they appreciate my
Yeah.
work in this field. Like what an amazing feeling. It was just awesome.
Yeah, I like that. Did you ever quit something that you later regretted? Dang, I wish I wouldn't have quit.
Um, Actually, yes and no. um, when I got divorced, I started writing a book, ironically, on how to be successful in life. And obviously, I was divorced, so you could look at it different ways. But I started writing it. And then at one point, I said, you know what? It's pretty much done, but I'm not ready to release this. I don't know. And so I literally just kind of quit on the book. And then later I said, you know what, this is dumb. Like, let me just finish writing this book. Let me put it out there. And I did that twice because in med school, I wrote a book on neurology for the non-neurologists. And I published it, self-published, but then I put the price so high because I just wasn't sure about myself. I was like, man, maybe people will hate this. I'm just going to put it so high up that no one ever will buy it. And then later, I thought when I was doing my other book, I was like, this is silly. Let me just put it out there and not quit. This is not like you.
Yeah, I like that. Chatting to the next generation, what's one thing they should relish in the journey? You know how we kind of rush our adulthood and go through school and all that kind of stuff. But looking back, and so if you were talking to, it could be a high school graduation or college graduation, it's like what's one moment of life that people should take more time to really relish?
You know, life is all about stages. As you said, we go through that young age, that stupid phase where we don't know. And then we go through our years later that we're like, man, I wish I had known. But I'm going to tell the youth coming up the ranks to really enjoy that time. Don't rush to grow up. Enjoy the time that you have today and live it out to the most because you only have that health at that age. You only have that energy at that one age. It all goes downhill as as we get older. But when we're young and feel fearless, we can do anything. We just want to grow up and we want to get older and we want to have all this. But I'm going to say just pause, enjoy your time, enjoy what you have in front of you, make the best of your day.
Yeah, that's really important message. So Harvey, we're gonna put all of your contact information in the show notes and all the different things that you do. On the personal side again, where are you headed? So what are some other goals that you have? You talked about, these books. There's probably some other things going on in your life. What are some of your personal things that you'd like to do in the next 3 to 5 years? 1 to 5 years.
And yeah, in the next few years, just on the professional side, I'm working with a company called Help AI. I'm an investor. I'm their medical AI technologist per se. And the skinny is this is a device that will sit over the patient's bed or in patients at their home. And the skinny is it will detect if the person's going to fall, and if they fall, if they think they're going to fall, the nurse will be called, a doctor. And then at the home edition, family members will be texted and communicate, say, hey, mom fell, she's not calling, she hasn't gotten help, things like that. And I'm really proud of that because I think that's going to help humanity. On the other side of this, in the next few months, I'm really excited. I'm an advisor for Singapore, and so they're flying me out to Singapore to help with digital healthcare there. So I'm really stoked about putting all my talents and seeing how things can change and be part of the legislation and part of the change for that country. And then on the personal side, I'm just really enjoying life. I'm trying to take care of myself, work out more, go on walks, take care of who I am, and really teach my children. My youngest is 15, and I got remarried, and we have now a soon to be actually he's now 9 years old, so or soon to be 9, sorry. And so it's just exciting to enjoy it, like I said earlier, just take that stage because he's only going to be 9 this year, and then just to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Well, Harvey, this has been super interesting getting to know, I think, like I mentioned at the top, I think many people know who you are on the professional side and all the great things that you're doing to help transform healthcare, especially along the lines of ChatGPT, AI, those sort of things. But on the personal side, it's good to know that you are human and just like the rest of us. So thanks for being my guest on Behind the Mask.
Thank you so much.
That wraps up another edition of Behind the Mask. Thanks for watching. I know you have a lot of choices and little time.